Hey, it's been a while, and I've actually recorded this once or twice now because it's been a while, and so I'm a little bit not accustomed to having a conversation with you like this. And so I apologize first and foremost for the mess. As you've known from day one, this is not a professional broadcast. This is something that I'm creating very much in sort of like in the moment, right? There's not a ton of production value that often goes into these productions, but I do hope that this broadcast finds you well. You know, it's very, I think, easy when somebody says, "How are you doing?" to just say, "Yeah, things are fine," or "I'm doing okay." If someone were to ask me that question, I think I'd say the same thing. "Yeah, man, things have been fine. Things are great." The reality is, for me at least, things have not been great in certain ways. I continue to be so incredibly grateful for the fact that Bitfarms is acquiring Stronghold Digital Mining, the company which I think we all very much love and appreciate. I know I certainly do. But there is a part of me that was already struggling a little bit with the death of a very beloved uncle of mine in July of this year. And then when this acquisition was announced, it makes perfect sense for both companies. And I am so incredibly grateful for this transformational acquisition between Bitfarms and Stronghold Digital Mining. But I really kind of got bummed out, and I found myself, dare I say, feeling a bit lowercase d depressed. I'm very, very cautious with using words like that because there's a specific definition for what depression is, and I was not depressed based on that definition. But I certainly felt bummed out. I had to process a lot of things. And so I thought it best to perhaps just step away for a bit, try to process those things, and then to come back in due course and to make a proposal to you. And my proposal, my friend, is that we consider expanding the topical focus of this channel. Now, you and I got to know each other primarily because of Stronghold Digital Mining, and I'll tell you something. I continue to believe so much in this company. I believe so much in its potential. I believe so much in its people. Speaking of people, Money Matt, as I affectionately, would refer to him as, right? Money Matt, our CFO, he is scheduled to leave the company in the not too distant future. So little by little, slowly but surely, many of the people whom we've come to recognize and become somewhat familiar with are departing as a result of the merger, right? This acquisition by Bitfarms progressing. I think it's probably time that this channel make some changes as well. We have focused almost just maniacally on Stronghold Digital Mining and all things related to this company. And that's a good thing. This company needed a lot of help, I think, getting its message out there. And I am so incredibly proud and I feel incredibly privileged to have had the opportunity to play a very, very small role in helping to get that message out there as something of a, I guess for a lack of a better way to describe it, Stronghold Digital Mining shareholder evangelist. And it's something I've really, really enjoyed doing. I feel very strongly that the mine waste to energy facilities that exist here in my beloved home state of Pennsylvania must continue until the job is done. And so I'm encouraged and grateful that the acquisition by Bitfarms will see Panther Creek and Scrubgrass continue to operate as they've been operating, and quite likely expanding to encompass even more energy production. Those are good things. That being said, I recognize that this has been a very challenging journey for many of us, myself included in many ways. You know, when I started creating these broadcasts, it felt very, very lonely, and it felt very, dare I say, again, I'm going to use this word depressing, lowercase d, to be a shareholder, right? I mean, we were watching our stock price slowly but surely erode in value. It wasn't entirely clear what was going on with the company, right? There wasn't a whole lot of news sometimes. And so it could feel very isolating. By creating this community, I really, really do hope that even if it's just by 1%, this journey has been somewhat less lonely and somewhat less frustrating. I mean, at the end of the day though, right? If you're somebody who got involved with this company on day one, it's still a long, long road to be made whole, right? Insofar as our IPO price and where we're trading right now after having had a 10-for-1 reverse split back in May of, I believe, 2023, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I'm trying to get at? So I'm acknowledging the fact that this has not been, I think, the ideal journey for many of us. I got involved, as I've mentioned before, in June of 2022 at a time when I thought the stock price had kind of maybe run its course insofar as going down. Of course, I was proven wrong. The stock continued to have turbulence. So understandably, when this merger or acquisition was announced, as I shared previously, I did take a lot of chips off the table. The stock was up like 77% on the day of the announcement. I had to tap out a bit. You know what I mean? It had already gotten a little bit unwieldy to have dollar cost averaged as far down as I did. So I continue to be grateful for the fact that I kind of pull some chips off the table. But that being said, I still very much viscerally feel a profound sense of loyalty to this company and a profound sense of, I don't know what word to even use, just a sense of belief in the mission and purpose of this business. And that continues to this day. Which is, I think, probably why I do feel bummed out that we weren't able to make it on our own as a standalone, independent, publicly traded business. The price of Bitcoin is currently around like $84,000, maybe going to $90,000 and beyond. Who knows? Had this price run happened a couple of years ago, maybe it would have been a different story for us. That being said, the price of Bitcoin is not ultimately the full story as it relates to Bitcoin mining companies, right? Hash price is a really, really big metric, and hash prices continue to struggle a bit. With that said, today's the day where I'd like to ask you to make a decision. If you're interested in continuing to have these dialogues and conversations with me about topics that are not as focused on one company, then great. You don't have to do anything. If you're not subscribed, definitely subscribe. But if you are subscribed and you're like, you know what, I was really just interested in finding out more about Stronghold, I'm not so much interested in anything else, today may be the day then that we part company. However, if you're still interested in Bitcoin and the Bitcoin mining industry as a whole, if you're interested in the topic of financial markets generally, and by generally I just mean, hey, what's going on with major market averages, perhaps what's going on with precious metals. There's this ongoing debate as to whether or not Bitcoin is at long last going to, run to the moon while gold sinks into the earth, or whatever analogy you want to use. I think these are topics that could be interesting to explore. So if that's something that's of interest to you, talking about other, Bitcoin mining companies beyond, Bitfarms, right? Looking at the industry as a whole, looking perhaps at major market indices, maybe looking at the price of gold, maybe even looking at some gold mining stocks, right? These companies make a lot of money, by the way. They legitimately make like a lot of money, like just copious amounts of money. And yet their stocks, in some cases, I'm thinking of Newmont right now. Here's a company that makes like billions of dollars, like hundreds of millions in EBITDA, falls short of analyst estimates by 5 cents. And the stock's down at this point, maybe 30%. It's kind of pretty severe. Now, you and I are no strangers to beaten up stocks. And you and I are no strangers to the idea that the market can seemingly behave irrationally in some instances. But the point I'm trying to make is that I'd very much like to expand, as I've said now, I think 2 or 3 times, the range of topics that we discuss on this channel. So if that's something that's interesting to you, then please tune in. You know what I mean? Like, let's try to make a run of this. Let's try to make this channel then something that's a bit more interesting by broadening our focus a bit. I'm not going to talk about celebrity gossip or about really too much like politics stuff. That's not really my focus. My focus is really on the financial markets, Bitcoin mining, maybe precious metals, maybe, precious metal mining companies, and a couple of different things in between there. So if that's something that's you're kind of like open-minded to, then great. Here's another piece of interesting information. So as you may recall, we have this Stronghold Digital Mining shareholder dashboard, which over the past couple of months, bits and pieces of it have started to kind of like get wobbly and flicker out. Certain, data points are no longer updating. The dashboard itself is updating, but it's slowly falling apart. I've intentionally not wanted to really get into the code and update it, mainly because my vision is to have a dashboard that's a bit more broad, right? I'm not saying I want to talk about 500 different metrics, but I do think it could be useful to have a somewhat more holistic view of the financial markets and not maybe have something that's quite so focused on, one company. As I've said before, I personally, at least, I don't like going to financial, news, mainstream, financial news websites where it's like, okay, I'm looking for specific information about, market averages or what's going on with, say, the price of Bitcoin or whatever, the price of gold. Hey, what's the VIX at? What's NASDAQ at? Whatever. I don't want to get bombarded with extraneous news, war zone images, stuff like that. It just kind of bums me out. I don't want to see that stuff. At least not when I'm specifically looking for financial related stuff on ostensibly what's supposed to be a financial market news website. So the dashboard that I'm envisioning is going to be what I think I would prefer to see in some ways as it relates to just the numbers, not crowded by a bunch of other, kind of things that are extraneous to that. So we'll see how that turns out. And I'll definitely tell you more about it as I make more progress on it. It's just about done. Okay, my friend, it has been a while. I do hope you'll consider continuing to have these conversations with me, but if not, it has really been the journey of a lifetime. And I deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate all of your camaraderie and all of your friendship over these past many years talking about Stronghold Digital Mining. But hey, it doesn't have to be goodbye. Today could just be the beginning of the next chapter for this channel. So with all of that said, let's stay positive, let's be great, and we'll see each other again very, very soon.